Okay, well, welcome to Paddle the World in 60 Minutes. My name is Pat Bradley, coming from Central Florida, and this program is for the paddlers, presented by Dragonboat coaches and friends of coaches around the world. So, as countries around the world are starting to reopen, the international sports community is also trying to find its way back. Is there cause for optimism now? And what does the future of our sport look like? Well, the focus of today's program is what now and what next. This morning we're lucky enough to have Scott Murray with us. Scott Murray is the president of Dragonboat Canada. And Dragonboat Canada, one of, if not the largest Dragonboat program in the world. And in terms of national team, one of the most successful Dragonboat programs on the planet. Scott is also a Team Canada coach with multiple gold medals, and Scott is full-time Dragonboat. He operates a highly successful club near Toronto in Pickering, Ontario. I've known Scott for a long time and coached with him, and it's been my pleasure also to coach against him. There's no one more passionate about the sport than Scotty. I've learned a lot from him. We've shared a lot of experiences. Anyway, today, Scott's going to talk about, he's going to talk to us about how to stay motivated while we're separated from our sport and separated from our teammates. So Scotty, welcome.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks for having me. I brought a little picture. I think you me there.
Yeah.
The other side, and then you see Mr. Bradley right there. So
that's awesome.
A little bit of down memory lane when Pat and I were coaching together, but still competing against one another.
That's great. So Scott, you're considered to be one of the top coaches, and just as importantly, one of the top Dragonboat program developers in the world. So just to get started here, how did you find your way to Dragonboat? I knew you back then, and you're pretty young. You're still pretty young.
It's very interesting, actually, and I'll touch on this a little bit today, but my path was really through hockey. I played on a hockey team, and my buddy said, you got to come down. I've joined this kayaking club, and you got to do it. And it's the thing we got to do for the summer. And honestly, I was a little bit, I don't know, like I'm into hockey and things like that. And he dragged me down to the water, and I saw the buzz. I saw that there was lots of people. I saw there was lots of excitement around the sport, and I got into it, and it just took off from there.
Awesome. Well, I remember meeting you when I first got into Dragonboat, and you're a young man at that time. So that's a great segue into, why don't you track your journey for us a little bit as to your journey to how you got to where you are now. You're the president of Dragonboat Canada. You operate one of the largest Dragonboat clubs, if not the largest in the country up there. Huge success in terms of national team competition. How'd you end up here?
Yeah, I think great questions. I really think just right place at the right time, and just being passionate. Being passionate has provided me all of these different kind of mentors throughout my journey. One of the first people, his name was Big Splash. His nickname was Big Splash, but Dave Oikawa, and he said to me, I remember he said, "Are you inquisitive by nature?" I said, "Sure, why not?" And he said, "Okay, I want you to help me get this Dragonboat program off the ground here in Pickering." And so I did, and I was booking boats and trying to find coaches, and really that's where friendships grew. And that just connected me with one mentor to another, and I just had really good people sort of teaching me. And at the same time, our sport was starting to explode. And I just happened to be in this position where I could influence new teams, and I could I could help people get better. And that just grew and grew and grew. So I was kind of in the right place as our sport was starting to explode. I had the right mentors guiding me, but at the same time, there wasn't a lot of organization. So there was a lot of freedom to try things out and see what worked.
Cool. I recall back in the day, you were actually my first camp coach down in Florida.
Yes.
This young upstart was going to coach me, who was, I don't know how many years my junior. And I remember being so impressed with your capacity at a young age. How old were you then? Like 20?
I'm gonna guess like I would have been in university, so early 20s.
And your ability to work with people of all ages, the patience, you had this natural capacity to teach and to motivate. And that's a great segue into, I'm curious, and I think our viewers will be too, because I know you. You're a great motivational coach. What are your tips for staying motivated during this forced time away from our teammates and away from the sport? Requires a lot of self-discipline. There's a potential to lose athletes to other activities over such an extended period of time. You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that, Pat. I think we certainly connected over this. I've seen this in you. You've been one of my mentors as well, even though we've had all these capacities. We've been teammates. I've been your coach. You've been my coach. But I know that passion is how people would describe you. And passing on your passion to your athletes is one of your greatest skills. So it's something I'm enthusiastic about. I believe in that. I believe that with motivation, we can accomplish things that we didn't know we could. And so I kind of put together a few notes and a few words on that today. I would start by saying this. This has been a credo that I've used a lot with my athletes, but never more than now. All life presents to us is challenges and opportunities. And I say to my teams, the bigger the challenge, the greater the opportunity. And our sport has never seen a greater challenge than it does right now. Our sport has never been to the point where we cannot get into a boat together. So because it's our greatest challenge, therefore it's our greatest opportunity. For me, I've always had a huge love for team sports. Team sports has been a motivator for me. And as I kind of track back my path, I found some irony in some of the roles that I've played in my team sports. For instance, I was a track and field and cross country runner in high school. Very individual sport where you're on your own, you're running against your competitors. I played on a hockey team, which is a great team experience, but I was the goalie. So I was in the most individual position out of that team sport. But despite that, I just loved the camaraderie. I loved the challenge, the group challenge of having to work together to accomplish things. And then as I transitioned to our sport of paddling, I paddled the kayak, which was also an individual sport. But we had this boat called War Canoe, and there was 14 of us in the boat, and that really drove me and got me excited. And then that parlayed towards Dragonboat, and that got me excited. So as I kind of think about my experience and how I can help my athletes, motivation is key. We're at a time where athletes are without their sport, and I want them to stay connected, stay excited, be connected with their teammates, and have reason to get up in the morning and be enthusiastic about our sport. So when I try to put my thoughts together to share them today, I really came up with three critical items. And the first one is trying to accomplish something that even we aren't sure that we can accomplish. Something that is hard to visualize. And to try to put that in perspective, I can go back to my coaching experience, and it's the greatest accomplishment I've ever had as a coach, is helping an athlete get to somewhere where they weren't sure they could get to. And an example I could provide for that, I can think back to Barb, I can think back to Diane in our fitness testing when we coached together, Pat, and them saying, I can't lift 100 pounds, never done it before in my life. You know, at this stage in my life, I'm not going to be able to do it. And then watching them and going, I watch you train. I can see that you can do it. You know, I can see something that you can't see, and trying to pass that along to the athlete, there's nothing like it. And then to see it come to fruition, and to see the athlete do something they weren't sure they could, or to see the team accomplish something that they weren't sure they could, that's where you get that exuberance and that jubilation. So that's number one. That's sort of the first key pillar. The second key pillar for me is the very first Dragonboat team I was on. We had these T-shirts, that just said "Friendship through the Dragon." I don't know who came up with the slogan, but that was the slogan of our very first Dragonboat team that I was on. And we joke about it to this day, but here we are 20 years later, and I'm joking about it with the same people who were on that team 20 years ago. So that T-shirt has already proven true that friendship through the dragon, the coming together, no time is more appropriate than now. The coming together of different people from different backgrounds to accomplish something, it genuinely creates a connection. It creates a friendship, and that friendship, that connection is the second thing that should be our motivator. And then the third one, and I think this one's really, really important, especially for athletes. A lot of the athletes I coach are over 40, over 50, over 60, but health and wellness. That should be our third key pillar of motivation. I want to see my athletes enjoy their retirement. I want to see them enjoy life. My athletes come to me and they sometimes use the word average, and I'm like, you are not average. The average person in their retirement is not enjoying their retirement like you are. You're far above average because you push yourself, because you challenge yourself, because you get up in the morning and you set a goal and you go out and accomplish that goal. So I want my athletes, really, that's the greatest victory we can have, is to be healthy. I reflect on my own club, and I can't statistically prove it, but we've had a great run of health in our athletes. We have athletes in their 60s and their 70s who have a great run of health, and we're so fortunate that we haven't lost any teammates, and everyone is really enjoying life. And I like to think that our sport is a little bit of a factor in that. So these are the things, these are the intrinsic ways that I want to encourage people to find motivation. I think if your motivation is the medal and the trip and the t-shirt, we like to say, that is extrinsic. That it's going to fall short, especially at a time like now when our sport's taken away from us. But if your motivation is intrinsic, if it's what can I accomplish that I don't like, what can I challenge myself to do that I don't know if I can do? What friends can I lean on to accomplish that? And is this going to make me healthier and happier in the long run? Those are the pillars that I want people to think about. That's what I'm going to encourage my athletes. And then if I was to just expand on that concept, the other thing, and I know Pat's great at this, is just encourage creativity. For me, our sport is extremely repetitive. We have to master one stroke, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to take 10,000 or 1,000,000 strokes in order to master that one stroke. But finding, as a coach, I always challenge myself to be creative, come up with something different off the wall that the athlete's not expecting, and then guess what? They're gonna come back to practice because they're gonna go, what's he gonna throw at us now? What is gonna be different and weird and strange? And I just thought to sort of highlight that point, I wanted to go back to my hockey, my beloved Toronto Maple Leafs, and tell a little anecdote about them. I'm a big, obviously I came to our sport from hockey. I'm a big hockey fan, and I go and I can't afford Leafs tickets, so I go to their minor league team, which is the Marlies, and I watch them. And I've had the pleasure that the manager of the Marlies got hired by the Leafs. He's one of the youngest managers in the league. And then this year they fell on hard times, and their coach, who would be like the most old school coach there is, they replaced him with the Marlies coach. So I was able to see sort of his strategies coming up the ranks. So now we have one of the youngest managers and one of the youngest coaches in the league. And what I found the most interesting that the new coach implemented was basically something called skills practices. Rather than the guys doing what would be the average everyday practice and working on, their systems, he separated them out. He put the forwards on one ice rink, the defense on another ice rink, and the goalies on another ice rink. And then he asked the players for some music requests, and he blared music throughout the whole building, music that was the preference of the players. And then they worked on skills. And I think about, all of us when we're teenagers, when we're young and enthusiastic, that's what we want to do. we don't want to work on, you know, the boring stuff. We want to try build new skills. Like I can remember, like think about being in an outrigger and trying to stand up and paddle, or, you know, just something different and creative. Even something as simple in our sport as paddling on the other side. It leads to jokes and it leads to enthusiasm. So never more than now is there a time for creativity. We can't do our sport in our normal way, but we certainly can connect with each other, with our teammates in new and creative ways. We can talk about skills. We can, you know, just what's happening here today. We can have Zoom calls to expand our horizons. So that's the other thing that I just wanted to touch on is creativity. Find new ways. There's a lot of people are using apps. They're you know, testing their running speed or their step count, or, you know, or they're bringing them out into the water and they're trying different. They might be trying a sup for the first time. They might be trying an outrigger for the first time. So I really encourage creativity. Creativity's at the heart of, you know, enthusiasm, passion, and now's a great time for us to be as creative as we can. And the last thing that I'm just gonna refer back to is just those friendships. For me, reconnecting with my teammates, that's been an opportunity that this challenge has presented. And one of the things that I do is on a weekly basis is we have a Zoom call, and we call it Corona Party. And me and some of my old paddling buddies, you know, we've paddled together over 20 years ago, but maybe don't see each other as often. This has given us an opportunity, and inevitably all those parties end up being reflecting on some of the accomplishments. Remember when we went to Italy? Remember when we went to Halifax? Remember when we went to Belleville? And those inevitably are what the parties will talk about, is some of the great times we've had. So I think that's sometimes lost on us right now. We maybe can't paddle, but we still can certainly connect with our teammates, and that should reignite that spark, that enthusiasm, that fire, that motivation to get fitter, exchange some ideas, you know, challenge your friend in that phone call. What are you doing? I bet you I can do it better. And that'll ignite a little spark in terms of our motivation. And that's it. You know, be creative, be healthy, just try to stay inspired. I know if Pat's your coach, that's not going to be a problem. He's incredibly skilled at that.
Well, you're being too kind. Thanks a ton for this, Scott. I couldn't help but laugh when you talked about creativity, because my mind went back in time to some of the creative things that you tried in the past. Some of them went really well. But I do recall one at a camp years ago when you were trying to get your athletes to paddle closer to the boat and not be going straight out, you know, way out to the side, that side exit. So you chose to steer between two signposts in the middle of the river. Do you remember? And the paddlers made it through. There's something happened back towards the steering part of the boat.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's so much fun talking to you. You know, if the listeners were interested, we could reminisce all day and just laugh all day long. But I love what you said about the having a reason to get up in the morning and get out of bed. And I use that exact same line with my athletes, and in our coaching clinics. That's what coaching's all about, is that kind of motivation. And testing your mettle as a coach right now is your ability to communicate that to people and motivate people to get out of bed, get up and get going. That's the toughest part of the day. And you got to have a reason to get out of bed. And taking people someplace they've never been before. I don't know how often I've heard that comment in the sport where, wow, I didn't know I never expected I'd be able to do this, whether it's in the fitness testing or the outrigger or those kinds of things. So really refreshing to talk to you again. And Scott and I are a classic example of friendships built through Dragonboat. And so, I mean, anyways, thanks so much, Scotty, and cherish this friendship forever. And looking forward to doing some more work together in the Dragonboats at some camps.
Absolutely, my pleasure, Pat. I think I'll end with this. We've been on the same side. We've been on the opposite side. So looking forward to being on the same side again.
Thank you. And you know what? That picture is in the same place where you keep your medals. I'm going to have to dig it out now. I haven't seen it in a while. Anyway,
Right
Scotty,
on.
thanks so much. I'm sure the viewers will be really interested in this. And we'll talk soon. Have a great day.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Okay, so for our first piece here, we've got Dr. Bob McNamara with us this morning. Bob is the professor and chair of emergency medicine at Temple University Hospital in Philadelphia. Bob is also a long time, maybe I think even a founding national team coach, and a very successful multiple gold medal winner with Team USA. Bob was also instrumental in developing medical policies and procedures for the International Dragonboat Federation. This morning, Bob's going to introduce a comprehensive Dragonboat reentry protocol that was just recently created by himself and a team of Dragonboat athletes and coaches, but they're also physicians and healthcare professionals. So Bob, first of all, thanks for joining us and for agreeing to share your document with us. I'm wondering if you'd mind giving us a brief intro into this document. And for the viewers, this document will be posted. You'll see it posted here in this recorded session, the link that you'll be able to access it. So Bob, I'll just turn it over to you, and thanks again for joining us.
Okay, thanks, Pat. So first off, it's not my document. If anybody deserves the most credit for this, it's John McDermott from Chicago. John engineered a group of us to look at this. He put together the original draft. And you'll see the other authors, Dr. Chung, Dr. Toro, myself, Kathy Lawson, and Celia Gute all contributed to this. And then some other people, were sent drafts and have commented. So this is coming from the Dragonboat community. This is an effort that John, knew that with his team, he needed it. Certainly my team in Philly were wrestling with this. So my background, as you mentioned, was with the EDBF Medical Commission, headed that for a few years. I actually work in the hospital in Philly, in the emergency department that has had the most COVID cases in the entire city. Nothing like New York, but we've been pretty busy. I worked last night. In addition to everything else, I had a couple COVID patients. Our volume has dropped, which is good. And now, we're starting to see, we've got about half as many cases in the hospital as we did a month ago. So now we're talking about, how do you get back out onto the water? So this document really takes you, I think, pretty much everything you need to know. It goes over the recommendations of the CDC, the World Health Organization. It has some links that you can click on. And John did a real great job organizing it. Step by step, what do we do? How do we decide? What do we do about equipment? How do we address our paddlers? Talk to your liability carrier. So I think it's a pretty comprehensive document. It's a guidance. It's certainly not anything that's in force of law. It's trying to help people, in the spirit of the community of the Dragonboat world. I think it's great that John put this together and that you guys are going to be sharing this. We want to get this out there. Again, this is going to be, it's freely available to people. And we're open to comments as well. So John pretty much, just talks about the whole concept of, how to be safe. I think most of us know by now that COVID, pretty much the way you're going to get it is somebody coughing the virus, exhaling the virus in your space, and then touching objects that potentially are contaminated with the virus. So, from that aspect, John talks about equipment. We go over the details of, should you clean things that, where you're paddling, certainly some railings. Obviously, if there's shared paddles and stuff like that, make sure you have your own water bottle. The whole question of separation of paddlers, I think probably every athlete has seen sort of that video where somebody's running along and somebody's behind them and they get into their with possibly the virus in the air. So that's certainly an issue in paddling. You're right next to somebody. In Dragonboat, you're very close. So we've considered that. Now, the CDC says 6 feet apart, all right? And that's essentially what is 6 feet. You know, it's the height of a person that's taller than me. It's your arm width. The World Health Organization, however, does say 3 feet apart. So that's a consideration there. But obviously, in a Dragonboat, you're pretty close together. So John's got some pretty cool illustrations in here about lashing 2 boats together, about spacing in the boat to get that 6 feet or 3 feet, depending on what you want to go with. We talk about the use of mask. We're advocating mask use, you know, just because it is a respiratory virus. You know, people have to make their own decisions. I think some of the important things for me as a medical professional that I tried to bring home to John is that obviously, whether wearing a mask or not, if somebody feels the need to cough or sneeze, they should grab their shirt, pull it up, go into that, or just certainly don't cough up into the airstream because that's the highest risk activity. The other issue we deal with is, you know, we have breast cancer survivor teams. We have older paddlers. I'm one of them now. So are you, Pat. So we got to say to ourselves, like, all right, and then we have people at home, right? Like you can live with somebody who's immunocompromised. Is it safe to drag a boat? And, you know, we've heard things like, well, we'll have them all practice together. Well, if you have, you know, 10 immunocompromised people paddling together, they could all infect one another. So really need to take a hard look at whether those folks should be participating in Dragonboat at this time. I don't think it's a good idea. I mean, you know, you really have to decide on what's most important to you. OC1s, clearly a great thing if you have them with your team to do. If it's shared equipment, you know, where you grab the OC is potentially infectious, so you ought to have stuff there to help clean it. OC2, you're pretty close. You got to be, you know, if it's your spouse in front of you, that's probably okay because you're living with them anyway, but you got to be careful. So we're seeing across the country different recommendations. There's some of those in the document. We want people to be safe. There were questions about, you know, what about if you've already had it, if you're immune, you know, testing. I mean, if you have 10 people who've all had it and they have a positive antibody test, then fine. You know, they're not going to infect each other. Most of the literature is pretty supportive of that. Realize that testing is, you know, imperfect at this point. There are some false negatives for sure. So you could technically test people and they could still have the virus. The other concern is we know that there are healthy spreaders, people that feel perfectly fine. And if you kind of heard that story about the choir, I mean, one person was infected. They felt good enough to go singing, and the whole choir, not the whole choir, but a big chunk of the people in the choir got infected. So there is danger. This is, from our viewpoint, it's more serious than the flu because it has a higher case fatality rate and higher complications. The good news is it's sparing the young. I mean, typically with the flu season, we see the very young and the very old. We're not 100% clear why that's happening. So kids, youth feel good about that. But certainly your senior seat paddlers, they're at higher risk. So I think the document is pretty easy to understand, not a lot of medical jargon. People ought to review it. And again, you have to apply it to your own circumstance. The upfront caveat is, you know, you can't do stuff that your local authorities aren't going to allow. If they're telling you no group activities, no organized paddling activities, you got to obey those rules, and just keep following what the public health recommendations are. That's pretty much it. It's a good piece of work. I think it's a good contribution to the Dragonboat community.
Great. Thanks, Bob, for doing this. I know you're extremely busy, and I've told you this privately, but thanks so much for stepping up and doing the work you're doing, and make sure you stay safe at the hospital, or as safe as you can. We really appreciate what you're doing there. And this document, I think, and I haven't had a chance to go through it yet, other than the first presentation we did with that you did with us. But what a useful guide. What a great launching first step for coaches and managers to consider when we're going to get back into how we're going to re-enter the waterway. So I think for a lot of us, we're sort of swinging. I feel like we're swinging in the dark. And for you and your team and John McDermott, thanks a lot, John, for doing this, for leading this thing. I think it's going to be a great boost to all of us and give us, like I said, a starting point to get people back in the water. So Bob, thanks again. The link to this document, as Bob mentioned, this team wants to share it and wants it out there. So it's going to be out there internationally. And the link will be posted on this recorded session. So you'll see that come up on your screen somewhere here. But again, Bob, thanks very much for taking the time this morning. Always good to see you. Stay safe up there in Philly. And hopefully we'll see you in the water, maybe an OC before a Dragonboat.
One last thing.
Yeah.
This is not the time to surround yourself with positive people.
Well done. All right. Thanks, Bob. Have a great day. Okay, now not our last presenter, because we still have the Mondrell, the hat coming up. Claudio, I tried to get a hold of Claudio Schermi from Italy. This week we had some hiccups in terms of communication, but he's a very busy man in Italy, and he's agreed to join us today and on short notice to speak to us about what's going on in Europe. Claudio is the founder of the Federation Italiano Dragonboat. He was the president and the founder, and he was the president until 2017. He's the European Dragonboat Federation vice president from 2005 to 2017, where he is now the current president of the European Dragonboat Federation. Claudio is also a member of the IDBF Council, the International Dragonboat Federation. So Claudio, thank you so much for joining us today. And I do apologize for the short notice and the communication hiccup there. Claudio is going to talk to us a little bit about the EDBF, too many acronyms. He's going to introduce us to the European Dragonboat Federation and maybe give us some insights as what the sport, what the future looks like for our sport over in across the pond there. So Claudio, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you again for your kind invitation. I was very much impressed of Bob's presentation of the protocol of restart, and very much impressed with Scott's presentation about motivation. I always people say that I am Italian, so I'm very much passionate. But I have seen this passion today in Scott, in his presentation. And it was exciting to hear when he speak about the journey, because it is a journey. I started as a paddler when I was 10 years old, as a kayak paddler, of course, and I was in the national team, the Italian national team. I had a lot of experience, individual experience, and after my first race in Dragonboat was in '88, and when I compete we had some kind of dream teams of kayakers, all very strong, but it was the first Italian championship, first race, never been on a Dragonboat. We raced and we were sure to win, but we were second. We were second behind a team of people that I saw very old. We were all 20-year-old, 25-year-olds, and they were all 45, 40, 50, very old people, I thought. But they beat us because they were a team. They were all members of the same club. They were playing football together every once a week. They are doing a lot of, they went for dinner together. I still say in Italy that the best training for a Dragonboat is to go for dinner together. So they were a team. And I said, oh, this is not a sport because we are so strong and we lost against all these people. After I come back to Dragonboat in around 95, because they asked me to prepare the national team for the, I was a coach at that time. I had the experience as a coach, kayaking coach, of course. And after they asked me to prepare the national team for the World Championship U Young. Then I met the part of the journey where it was a group experience, and it was fantastic. I knew the friendship between athletes, between all the different nations. I knew that we can go for a championship and not just go sleep, stay in the hotel, go for food and race. I know that to go, I knew and I experienced a different way that is typical of Dragonboat, and that started my love for Dragonboat. In '97, I found the Italian Federation. I was president until 17, and after I became president of the EDBF. I have the privilege and honor to be president of the EDBF, that is the Continental Dragonboat Federation for Europe, that grouped together 24 national federations. For me, it is very important to be with you today to share ideas and plans for the future and for the Dragonboat worldwide. First, allow me to share with you my concern for all the Dragonboat paddlers and their families worldwide, and for all the people affected by the COVID-19 virus. As sport leaders, our priority is to do our utmost to protect the health, the well-being, the safety of all paddlers. We have to provide motivation and examples to encourage people to restart in safety. EDBF decided to stop all programs in 2020, as also IDBF did. We stop our programs that is all the Euro Cup, all the European Championship. It was an intense year expected. The only thing that we left in the agenda is on the first weekend in December, the forum. Since I've been elected president, for my experience also at international level, I've been always to the International Federation Forum since in Lausanne, in the House of Sport, where the Olympic Committee is. Every year, all the federations meet for this forum. So my idea when I become president, say I want to start this forum between our officials, between our federations. And in 2018, we had the first forum, and Pat and Liz, they were invited as presenters, and it was a great experience. And last year we had this second forum in Seville, and this year we have in Italy, in Fidenza, that is near Bologna, near Parma, where is the Parmigiano, where is the prosciutto. It's a beautiful place where we will go to have a meeting, and together we will do the first European Dragonboat, indoor Dragonboat Championship with ergometers. Have never been done in Europe, and we will try to have the challenge that this year can be the only championship in the year. But we want to keep close ties with our members and with our partners. And our leadership in Europe is based on a continuous exchange from bottom to the top and back from the top to the bottom. Because we don't have to forget that we represent our partners. We represent our partners through our national federation, to our Congress, Council, Executive, and President. So we don't have to forget to keep an eye to the paddlers, because at the end sometimes we forget what they really want, because they think because we have been paddlers that what we think is what the paddlers want. We have to ask them. We have to go to them. We have to move forward and we have to move to them to move forward. And if I can, I try to share something. I'm not sure I can do it, but I will try to do it. Okay. No. Just a second. I have to try to see what happened. I want to try to exchange. I don't know why. I'll share my desktop. Share. Okay. Do you see something? Do you see my screen? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we start from this organization chart that we have, that I try to put on to make everybody understand what we want. Since the beginning, since I was candidate, I had clear this in my mind, and I start to speak to the Dragonboat community of Europe. And today we have to think to the Dragonboat community worldwide. So, okay, from the Dragonboat community, from the president when goes candidate as a program, and this program goes down to the Dragonboat community, and the Dragonboat community gives back feedback up to the president. The Dragonboat community can attend the Congress through the members, because the members represent their national partners, their national views. And then we go to the council. The council is not only a larger organization. The council is the place where we should discuss the policy of the federation. The executive committee, as I say, is the word is executive, very much executive. And the president has to represent what the people want and to lead the federation, the federation. We have 24 members in Europe. From Armenia to Ukraine, we have Germany, Great Britain, Hungary, Israel, Ireland. Israel is not exactly in Europe, but they join our federation. We have many nations. We are still working to expand our membership. To the last championship, we had 19 nations attending, over 24. Of course, we can do better, but we will try to do better in the future. And this is how we try to work for our decision. So this is really a circle. At the beginning, in my mind, I had a pyramid in my mindset for the, and after I changed from pyramid to a ball. So the president is a member of the group. So president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, commissions, members, honorary members, back to president. This is not a casualty how they are. Because, for example, we have two very important honorary members in Europe. We have Mike Aslam, that is the founder and president of honor of the International Federation, and he is the founder and president of honor of the European Dragonboat Federation. And we have Alan van Kouwberg, that is my predecessor and is our honorary president, and is still treasurer of the International Federation. For me to have them as advisors, it is very important, because they keep me in line with the history, and then I can discuss with all the others and go back to members and come back to the circle. We have a larger representative. This is the executive that where in yellow you have also the finance committee, president, treasurer, and secretary general. Then we have the 4xP that they have all something to do, and the representative of the EDBF members. So the representative of all the members. This is an important position that it is not in the International Federation that keeps as I said, keeps the keep us tight with our members. Here is what I expect, what we expect from Vice President. I go fast in this area because this is not the president. I allocate to every president a specific portfolio, and I expect to them feedback from all this area. And this is what we want to achieve during a year. A European championship, and 1 year we have this year we had scheduled the European Nation Championship in Kiev. Then we have the Euro Cup that it is since 2017, 2018 when I start my term of office, my first term of office, that I said the EDBF can't work only on one championship. We need to invest on some festival and to create some organizers that organize event at top level. So the Euro Cup, it was at the beginning only an idea, and now it's developing very much. In this year, in 2020, for the first time, we have a third sport event that is the European Indoor Dragonboat Championship. It is the first time, and I expect this year that we will have a success, that we will have success in having paddlers racing. We are still working on the format because there are two different ideas to make it individually or to make it as a team. My idea, it is to make a challenge as a team and then give a prize also to the best of the team, because we have the result, individual results. Then we have the EDBF Forum. The EDBF Forum is, as I said before, is a 2 days meeting where we can socialize, we can have speakers, we have a program where we can meet with the commission's shareholders and have a presentation and update our members. We encourage our members to be prepared because we know that paddlers are very well prepared because they train. We know that our coach are very well prepared because they study. But also the club's officials are very well prepared because they have to manage their club. The life of the club is continually at a challenge, so they have to be prepared. We have also a very prepared race official class. My concern is that I want to make prepared and I want to make informed and update also the officials of the National Federation, because the officials of the National Federation, they have to be visionaries, they have to know how to manage, they have to be not committed only to their club or their city, but they have to work for their nation, they have to work for their federations, and they have to grow. And the EDBF Forum is the opportunity to grow together, to show, to share the experience together. So this is how we work, because this is not all. We have the medical commission, we have the special, the special commission is for para dragons, youth commission, women in sport commissions, marketing and media commissions. And we have also the representative of the main nations elected. So we have 5 representatives of the nations within the council. This makes clear what is the council. The executive is only restricted to the 4 vice president, treasurer, secretary, and representative of members. When we go to council, we have also the commission's shareholders, and we have the representative of the nations. So it's a large meeting that now is we do very often thanks to these technologies. What we will do next? Next, we decided to move next, we decided to move to, just a second. Okay. We decided to move to Kiev, to move Kiev for next year championship. It will be in August 2021. Now I will share to you the presentation of this championship, and after I will tell you some ideas that I am discussing within my board and within the nations, and at the end we will take a decision about the championship next year in Kiev at the Congress that we have in July.
14th EDBF European Nations Championship 2020 will be held in the capital of Ukraine, Kiev. Avalon Water Stadium, ready to host the most spectacular and emotional and vibrant European races of 2020 among national Dragonboat teams from all Europe. The professional staff team will provide the highest level of competition, accuracy of results, and maximum safety for all participants. Here will give you unforgettable emotions. Become a part of European Championship. We are waiting for you in July 2020. Organizers EDBF and USDBF. General Media Partner Most Media.
Okay, good. I hope I shared and that you saw the video. Did you see the video? Oh, good. Technology is difficult to speak and move everything. Okay, what we want to do this year, we had a European National Championship. Unfortunately, we have to postpone this to 2021, and we decided to maintain the same scheduling. So next year will be Kiev. In 2022, we will go back to Ravenna, and in 2023, we will have Barcelona as a Club Q Championship. But in this case, we would have to cancel the Club Q Championship next year, or we have to cancel the National Championship of this year and go straight to Club Q Championship in Kiev next year. We are going to try to save both. So we want to have the National Championship together with the Club Q Championship. We are also discussing the possibility, this will be in the middle of August, and how we want to achieve this in only 6 days, because we want to extend the championship to 6 days. We are discussing the possibility to reduce the championship to some classes. The National Championship, we are discussing this as completely to be decided, but the idea is to have the National Championship for under 23, for the Premier class, and for the seniors, just one class. For the juniors, we are considering a request from the International Dragonboat Federation to have a World Junior Championship, because to have the World Junior Championship in October in Hong Kong would be very difficult for the juniors, and we have to finalize this proposal from the EDBF, but we are in favor if they wish to. And then what about the other classes? The other classes, we are considering to have a full Club Q Championship. Club Q Championship for all the other classes, for all the classes, including premiers, including Senior A, B, C. But the World Club Q Championship, of course, we have to reduce a little bit the numbers of the participants, because in Europe we have we allow 5 crews for nations in the standard boats and 2 crews for nations in the small boats. We are considering how to make the program shorter, to put together all the paddlers in one championship, both for club crews and for nations. Another thing is on the table, that we receive some requests from abroad, and we are considering the possibility, at least for some classes, to add to the club crew championship, to make it open to a European club crew championship, so to allow international crews not from Europe to join the club crew championship. That can be an option. Of course, it's on the table. Not everybody is happy, because many important nations knows that China, Canada, United States, Australia, very dangerous for medals. And some people, some nations, especially the most the strongest nations, say are negotiating this point, but it is on the table. I asked to consider, and we will discuss this within council, executive, and at the end in July we will have the Congress. And if it is possible, maybe only with 1 crew, we would like, with 1 crew for nations, we would like to open the opportunity to join the club crew championship, the European club crew championship, also to international crews. So, of course, is an exceptional moment, and we have to make exceptional decisions. Scott said that we have to be enthusiastic. We have to be, I write many things of what he said, and that significant impact, greater the challenge, greatest challenge, greater the challenge, greater opportunities. This is what Scott said before, and I like. So this is a great challenge to put together a club crew championship and a national challenge, championship. But I am a visionary on this, and I believe we can do it, because this is what paddlers want. Paddlers want to meet each other, and we as officials maybe we want the medals, but paddlers want to compete one against the other, want to have beer, want with the others, and want to meet, to share days together. This is the spirit of Dragonboat, this is the spirit of Chuyuan, this is our traditions, and we have to maintain our traditions. This is the difference. This is why, even if I am a paddler, and in these days somebody criticized me because on my Facebook page there is me going kayaking. Okay, I go kayaking, yes, nothing bad, but inside my heart, everybody knows that I am a dragon boater, and I believe that kayak is a fantastic sport, rowing is a fantastic sport, and dragon boat is not a discipline of kayak, but it is a fantastic sport. For me, in every place, at international meetings, in Lausanne, at the Sport Accord, and in every place, I always say that dragon boat is a sport, is not a discipline, completely different as a traditions from canoeing, from other sport, and all the people today here at this meeting shows that we need to reaffirm that we are a sport, and we need our organization that has to be recognized as the only governing body for the sport. The International Dragon Boat Federation at the international level, and the European Dragon Boat Federation at the European level, Continental Federation all over the world. We are independent. We are open to cooperate with canoeing, with rowing, with our cousins, but they are cousins. They are not, they can be also brothers, but we are not us. We are the Dragon Boat community of the world, and we have to be proud to be member of this community. We have to grow, and we have to believe, because our sport is unique, And I am so happy that that day in 1988 I lose that race, because I always remember that the difference between the individual mentality of a paddler, of a kayaker paddler, and the difference to be member of a team. And when you are in a team, you are never alone. And today you have to teach this into the school, into the companies, into the national team, and also to the Olympic paddlers, individual Olympic paddlers, because nobody wins alone. Even who wins the K1, your Alan van Coverden in Canada, your Greg Barton in United States, and many others, who wins in K1 is never alone. He has a team around him, and you never win if you are alone. If you have a mentality that you are not able to share your capacity with your team, you can't win in the sport and in the life. This is the major things that we can learn from our sport and that we can teach to everybody in the world. Thank you very much.
Claudio, thank you very much. That was a great insight into European Dragonboat Federation.
Okay, here we go. Dragonboat teams and clubs, COVID-19 re-entry outline. All I'll do is I'll just tab down so you can have a read. We'll try and put the link out either by Facebook. I don't think I can put the link, and you can access it direct on YouTube.